So I'm here today with you, Marta Echarri, General Manager for N26 for Spain and Portugal.
Yep.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for coming and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we have with us our alumni, our students, and many people from the IE ecosystem who are tuning in to hear what you have to say. So
Sure.
With that, let's dive in. N26 is clearly a success story. You have been charged with, I think, growing the workforce only 50% and reaching over 1 million customers. So clearly not an under-promise, over-deliver situation. What are the secret ingredients of this company? What's led to its success beyond maybe just some of the obvious things? Any surprises for us?
Well, I've got the pleasure to lead this project both in Spain and Portugal. I've been with the bank for 10 months now, which seems like forever because I've learned so much in these 10 months. And indeed, we're trying to grow our client base to 1 million customers in Spain and Portugal. The pace at which we've been growing in these last years has been just crazy. We can say very proudly that we're a success story in terms of growth. We are indeed a hyper-growth company, right? We're in the top 10 unicorns in Europe, which is something that I say with a lot of pride. Thanks. Both in terms of clients, in terms of growth, and also in terms of valuation. Right? There's a lot of money in the system now. There's a lot of what it's called in the financial world dry powder from venture capital and also institutional investors, and we're valued currently at an astonishing $3.5 billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B, which means a lot of money. Just to give you an idea on something, on a bank from Spain, where in terms of valuation, we're similar to Bankinter's valuation, which is a listed Spanish bank. So secret ingredients, I'd say we're cheaper, we're faster, and we are easier, right? We're cheaper just because our cost structure is very lean. We have no branches. We're 100% digital bank. We're native digital. And that means that we don't have branches, and then all our procedures are absolutely digital. That takes a lot of the costs that other traditional banks have to a very small level, and that's what makes us be very we don't have our clients paying fees because of our structure, which is a huge change versus our competition.
Because you're digital native and you don't have all the legacy structures. And when you say agile, I think that's something interesting not only to people in financial services, but to any company. What makes you agile? What kinds of things are you doing? If you can share.
Of course. I mean, the agile methodology, and I'm sure most of your students are currently working in this methodology, right? I'll give you my personal example I come from the traditional banking world, and now I'm leading this Fintech in Spain. The way that we collaborate, and I'll give very specific examples on agile methodology. Before, we used to work with, regular PowerPoint, regular Excel. I remember those long hours where, all the directors would go out for lunch with the CFO of a listed company, would come back at 6 p.m. and then they'd have to make notes to the presentation version number 23 for the analyst that would be waiting for them forever. And then those analysts would change the presentation to version 22. And I've seen presentations with versions, up to
50s.
Infinite, right? We work in a collaborative environment in which, I'll give you an example. Last week, a lot of people needed to input certain things very fast. We just did it in a shared document, right? 25 markets in which we're present are inputting their work into just one document at the same time. Version number 25, that's over. We are all working in a very agile methodology, which is how clearly your students, I'm sure, that are doing.
So, digital native bank using digital tools to keep things lean, move quickly, sounds like an interesting secret ingredient for success. Moving to disruption, this is a sector, financial services in general, but banking in particular, lots of things going on with money, with digital currencies, et cetera, Fintech, and even using behavioral science to nudge savings behavior, spending behaviors, et cetera. So where do you see 5 years from now for those of our alumni and students who are in or want to be in financial services and banking?
What's the future, right?
What's
the future?
5 years from now,
So
what do you see in the crystal ball?
I would be too pretentious to try to talk about like the future, but reality is that disruption is on N26 DNA. We were founded 6 years ago by two founders from Austria, who are currently the co-CEOs of the company. I'll just give you very specific examples on what we've seen so far. We use AI. We of course use the clouds, right? We've got no IT legacy whatsoever. We use what you were talking about, like the behavioral finance. This is where we're going. The reality is that we now have our clients go into our app on a daily basis many times, because every time you spend with our card, you get a notification with your coffee or lunch or whatever. So eventually, we'll be getting to a point where we could be offering things depending on your purchase behavior. So let's say that you and I are going to New York, in 2 weeks, and eventually we could offer, would you like to have some insurance for your trip? Like, what if you get COVID, right, in the next year, or in the next week, and then you cannot just like avoid that trip and lose the whole money. So that's one thing. In terms of fraud prevention, let's remember that N26 is a Spanish branch of a German bank, meaning that our clients in Spain have IBAN from Spain, so Spanish IBAN for all sorts of purposes, but also in terms of security, we've got the security from the German banking license, which means that in the terrible case that N26 went bankrupt, it'll be the Bundesbank, the German bank, that will be in charge of the deposit scheme for the clients. Being a proper bank, we're very regulated, so we need to make sure that we prevent fraudsters from committing fraud through our bank. So some things that we're seeing is that the pattern of behavior from these fraudsters is sometimes the same, right? Their conduct, their behavior is very similar. So we're able to analyze that behavior and predict, which is very into the future,
yes, and
predict that person is going to commit fraud.
And so behavioral profiling, predictive analytics.
Exactly. So I find that's pretty into the future.
So a call out for students and alumni working or studying behavioral science, also cybersecurity, clearly.
Definitely. Cyberly is huge. I mean, I'm very happy to see the curriculum that you have here at IE, because you're very into the professions of the future, and that's key. We're finding many challenges to hire talent. In Madrid, we're a small team, but in Barcelona, we have 130 professionals, mostly dedicated to UX, to product, and to engineering. And I promise, we can't find enough talent to match the growth profile that we have for our office in Barcelona. And same thing in Berlin, same thing in the tech hub in Vienna. So I'm very happy to see that there's the curricula from IE is very oriented towards where the future's going, so that the companies like ours are going to be able to hire proper talent from universities like IE.
And would you say, as you talk about education, would you say that N26 is only a bank, or is it a tech company?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like to say that we are a fintech. The financial team is here in Madrid. So we've got people from legal, people from compliance in Madrid. We've got business development. We have marketing, of course. And then we have strategy and operations and PR. Right, that's business. And then the tech part, so out of the fintech, Fin is in Madrid, tech is in Barcelona for Spain, and the tech is just huge. We have big teams of engineers that work together with product and with design, because our applications vary. I think that if I had to choose one advantage of our app, is that it's so easy to use. The user design is just second to none, and we've got many professionals that just do that. So we are a fintech, and I like to talk about us like that.
And those professionals are, I guess, somewhat technical, but also creatives that have studied visual design, branding, things like that.
Definitely. Our head of design in Barcelona, she's amazing. I really love her. And everything she does is optimizing design. I'll give you a specific example. You can move money from your main account at N26 to a space that you can share with people. So let's say that 2 students from IE are sharing an apartment, and they have a sub-account called Home, where they have all the expenses in that sub-account. You can move money from your main account to the sub-account that you share with your roommate just with your finger like this. You literally drag and drop, and then in a drag and drop and a click, the money is moved to that space. That's the type of things that designers do, right?
Very
and
intuitive.
it's very easy.
So the tools work the way people work. So again, behavioral science. So we've covered a couple of things related to financial services, to banking for alumni and students who, of course, are interested in that. But let's move more to leadership and management and some broader things. So you're running a company, an extremely exciting company. People skills. I mean, obviously, banking, finance has numbers involved, but at the end of the day, we work with people. Beyond teamwork and being a people person, what do you see as the people skills, the intrapersonal skills that you would hire for, or that you think determine whether someone is super successful, mildly successful, or not so successful at N26?
Yeah, so first of all, we're a very diverse and multicultural company. I say that with a lot of pride. We've got people from 80 nationalities. 80. We're like literally our professionals are like at IE, right? Many internationals, many a real multicultural company, and we give a lot of importance to that. We definitely believe that diversity encourages productivity. The way that different teams and different segments see a problem is very different, can differ a lot. If you pose a problem to an engineer and the same problem to a person in marketing, the solutions would be definitely different, yes. Right? So we find that it's very enriching to have a very diverse customer base. And then in terms of competencies and skills, I always like to say that we hire talent. We're 1,500 employees right now. We've got about 500 openings. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy. We're just growing too much. We can't.
Incredible,
it's crazy. And when I say that we hire by competencies, I really believe that, because sometimes it might not be very intuitive what you would need for a specific type of job. Our processes have different interview panelists, and then one person can veto a candidate. So let's say that we're hiring someone for legal now. If one of the 10 people in the panel says no to that person, that's a no-go, right? So, yeah.
So a high bar in some sense for
very high,
behavioral
very high.
Soft skills that people show.
Yeah, definitely.
Any in particular that are critical for the N26 DNA in the sense of you don't have this one.
Yeah, you're out. I'd say you have to roll up your sleeves. I'm the first one that I'm the general manager for Spain and for Portugal. The other day, 2 weeks ago, I was literally buying the toner for the printer. One of our team members, Alfonso, who's in charge of business development, the other day he was literally printing stickers, and he was literally sticking those stickers onto flyers. So we do it all, right? You have to have a little bit of thick skin on. We do it all. If we need you to just bring down little goodie bags for IE students, I'm happy to do it. Anyone from a team would happy to do it. So people who
kind
really
of flat and it sounds like ego doesn't do well.
Yeah,
big egos don't do
definitely.
Well. Everybody's got to do everything, kind of startup mode, agile. As you said
totally.
Before.
That would be one, and the second, if I may, people that really challenge status quo. We don't like that. Why are we doing this? Well, because we've been doing this forever. That's not okay, right? You have to rethink about things, and disruption happens like this.
Diversity, inclusion, at IE we also say belonging as an academic community are critical things for us as a university. Obviously, those are critical things to companies these days, and many companies are working on them. As a woman who happens to be, as a leader of the company who happens to be a woman, advice for all of us out there in our companies, how do we create the environment? How do we create the conditions, let's say, under which women can thrive and reach their potential and grow in companies.
Yeah,
Any advice
definitely.
there?
The reality, right, is that women in leadership positions are still scarce. I can say that only 20% there's only 20% of female leaders in the financial sector. I have, the luck to be one of those and to be leading such a fascinating project. But I've always said that we need the help of men as allies, right? Sometimes right now, if you're having 80% of men in leadership positions, that means that the ones that eventually have a say and they have decision-making power, the majority of them are men. So just trying to, integrate I'm not a fan of events of women for women. I always tend to have diverse panels, always diverse panelists, and I think it's a lot more enriching because all of us have sisters, have daughters, have a mom, eventually we all have women in our families, and we don't like it when bad things happen to her, to them. So it's a question of inclusion, and I'm such a big fan of mentoring. So I get a lot of questions from students on, what advice would you give to maybe women that want to thrive in the corporate world. Ask, right? Like, have a coffee with someone who's in that position so that what you can expect from. That I find key, to know what you could expect from a job or from a university or from a business school. Ask. And that mentoring, it has helped me a lot throughout my career. I did have very relevant mentors back at JP Morgan. Most of them were actually women. Some of them were men, very inspirational, and that has helped me a lot throughout my career. And I like to give back to the society, so I tend to give a hand. Sometimes for women, I feel that it's like, sometimes we think that we can't make it. And you just need someone who says, yes, you can. Yeah, it's not that difficult. Like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you have to eat it in parts, right? Otherwise, it's just too big and too difficult to swallow. So, mentoring for me is key, and that culture of inclusion and that culture of reality. And we all have sisters and mother and daughters and that I think I.
And so for allies, it sounds like positive support, consistent positive support, because we all go through difficult times, everyone in any workplace, and so
totally, yeah.
It's overall it's a broader condition that needs to be set in the company.
And I'm saying allies in this sense, having men as allies for certain women, just to make sure that the path is a bit easier. But of course, to everyone, right? We all have had, a family member who was sick, and you're not at your 100%. It's fine. Like sometimes I ask my team members, like, "Are you okay? Like I see that you're, a bit more quiet. Is everything okay at home?" We all need allies. We all need people who say, who are caring, and that's back to your point. Goes back to the sense of belonging. So.
And caring, and I think that's obviously a critical element of well-being. The Gallup organization, the polling organization, they study engagement and these kinds of things. And what they found is that when you ask people in engagement surveys, what different criteria, when they look at which criteria predict engagement in employees, the number one question that predicts engagement, whether someone's highly or not so highly engaged, is, do you have a best friend at work?
Oh, wow.
Which sounds like a very soft question in traditional, decades-old business. But today, that's a critical question, and that gets, I think, exactly to your point of positive support, caring, a best friend at work. I mean, we have best friends in our lives, but a best friend at work sounds like a mentor, someone who cares.
Definitely. That's quite interesting.
On that, one last question for you. So speaking of caring, mentoring, positive change, and inspiration, sometimes we're lucky enough to have someone or a group of people in our lives that really provide our inspiration. Anyone for you that you want to give credit to? Gratitude or someone that you could share?
Sure. I used to have this amazing manager back in New York. And one of the things that I most liked about him, we were in the middle of this remediation plan for the bank, and we were all working a lot, long hours, and people were very frustrated because it was a regulatory concern. And one day, he comes to my desk and he says, Marta, what's the one thing that as a manager I could do for you so that your life becomes a little bit easier, or that I'm not going to say your life becomes a walk in the park, because your life normally is not a walk in the park, but what's the one thing that I can do for you? And I answered, and then I did the same exact thing to all the reports that I had. So all the analysts that were reporting to me, I asked them the same question. One answer that I got from one of them was, I'm working here till like 10 p.m. every day. I'm having terrible dinners. I'm getting fatter, actually, because I'm having pizza every day and spaghetti every day on my desk. I'm going to the gym. Is it okay if instead of a desktop, I can get a laptop so that I can leave at 6, do my Pilates, have a proper dinner at home, and then go back to work? As easy as that. So I'd say that, this is a very easy and very specific thing, but he was very inspirational. He would always ask me and the rest of the team members that reported to him directly our opinion. So back to the sense of belonging and back to the sense of caring, you feel that you're heard. And he was also the one that offered me a very senior mentor who was actually head of fixed income for asset management in New York, who was this big lady that at the beginning I was a bit not afraid of, but she was really senior in the company. And she also gave me excellent advice. So that manager would be, I guess, that someone that really inspired me.
So it sounds like a genie in a bottle, but instead of getting 3 wishes, you only got 1.
Literally. Sometimes it's better, because at least you make sure that one is happening.
And it seems like that was the beginning of simplicity. Only one wish.
Definitely.
But it's interesting, and just to wrap up, you said that you took that idea that was powerful for you, that your manager asked you the one thing that he or she could help you with. And then you took it down to your team, and I think that speaks a lot to what we talk about in leadership, which is modeling the behaviors you want from your team.
Totally.
It's one thing to say things, right? But we have to walk our talk, so to speak, and so you did that.
Yeah, and particularly I find, Lee, with your weaknesses, when we're all very aware of our strengths. When your friend says, "Oh, you're very efficient, you're very fast, and you're like such a good salesperson," we all know what we do good. Do we know what we don't do that well? And one, are you self-aware? Do you want to change it? And how can you change it? Just finding a role model in terms of behavior on that weakness helps you a lot to try to improve that part. So
couldn't agree more. In fact, I talk about in my own work something called behavioral fitness, which tries to take the idea of weaknesses, which sometimes we don't want to use that word, and make it more fun. So what are the behavioral muscles that you could take to the behavioral gym and fine tune? And we all have them, right? And we all need to recognize, to your earlier point about let's lower the egos, we all have to recognize we have these little gaps that need filling. And so I think, I wonder if the idea of next best you, we talk about that in the business school here.
Oh, wow, I love that.
Education really ought to be about creating the next best you. And you have a year in your life or 4 years in your life as a bachelor student to work on the next best you, which, like you said, is what are my weaknesses, whatever we want to call them.
Areas of improvement, which sounds a lot better,
Areas
right?
of improvement, which HR, of course, tells us. But is that something that you do in N26, or do people have a plan where they've identified, okay, here's the behavioral muscle that I could
definitely,
be a better listener this quarter, I'm going to work on that?
We have we're very into, particularly in the growth team, where our manager, who's the CGO, the Chief Growth Officer of the company, so he encourages all of us to create our PDP, our personal development program, which we then see with our direct manager. I see it with him, and then I'll see the PDPs from my direct reports with them, just to make sure that not only we see our progress, which is very positive, but also where you're going, right? Your path to success and what you need. We're very into 360 feedback. So for all PDPs, we always request feedback from peers, and we request feedback like this, so up, down, and then sideways, to make sure that you get a 360 feedback from different peers. And then eventually, when you're up for promotion, we have the expectations that becoming a next level would mean. so that you know where your gaps are, and throughout the cycle of that year or of that next 2 years, you know exactly where you have to focus on to make sure that you're covering those gaps. So we're very into these PDP are very key for us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We want to be conscious of your time. Thanks very much. On behalf of the business school, both N26 as a company and you as a leader in the company, I mean, it's super inspirational for us in the IE ecosystem. So thanks for joining us here on Business TV, so to speak, to share what you've been doing and your thoughts.
Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure. I didn't mention this, but I'm an IE alumni myself. I went to actually it was the beginning of my career because I took this Hacking Exponential Growth course in the Segovia campus, which was a 5-day course, which really opened a lot of new ideas in my brain. So thanks for having me. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.